I think you took it too far, Bob. Well, I just want you to know that it's all about the kids.
It's always about the kids. Stiff Truth. Welcome to the Stiff Truth, everybody. I'm Scott Casanova. I'm with Bob West. Just, of course, kicking it here like we do on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, getting into some tasty cocktails and some tasty conversation, as per use, Bob. I'll tell you what, man, I have been more pumped, and I know I may have said this before, but seriously, super, super fucking pumped for what we're having today for our cocktail. And I haven't even had a sip yet. So I think before we even talk about anything else or further just bloviate about nonsense, we just get in here and try this cocktail here. The infamous, the one and only Paper Plane. Cheers, my friend. Cheers.
Cheers.
Ooh.
That's good. That's interesting.
Now,
it's a mixture of flavors I've never had before. It's pretty stiff. I like it.
And I'm going to stop you right there so we indulge in one more sip. What do you say? Wow. You know what's really nice about this? The lemon juice literally blends in so well with the three boozes that it's hardly tart. Isn't that interesting, dude? Like, it's hardly tart. And there's 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice in there. You couldn't even tell me that, dude. Like right now. And again, here we are, fucking Aperol. Again, can we just say now a newly found friend of the show is Aperol? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and we got introduced to Amaro with this drink, and that's another Italian liqueur that we hadn't had. And let's be honest, we're fans of Italian liqueurs going back to Galliano.
Oh, Galliano's a staple, a mainstay in both the West and Casanova bars. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. I don't even think I'm going out on a limb here. Now we've done 2 drinks 2 weeks in a row with Aperol. They've both been fucking phenomenal. Just different, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like exercising new muscles of the taste buds right now. It's pretty interesting and unique and very flavorful. And you know, I've heard a lot about this drink. This is all I can say. I've heard a lot about it on other podcasts. It's been quite the rage. Apparently, it started based off of the MIA song from the late 2000s, Paper Planes. Do you remember that? It was like
get high like paper, get high like planes, or whatever that is.
Yes,
yeah.
That's absolutely the song. It was it was the main theme song for Pineapple Express, I believe, too. Right? Remember that movie that came out with Seth Rogen?
Yeah. I believe it was also one, that Warren Beatty movie, where he was like running for office. And he was like dating a black woman, and it was like a big thing. I forget what the name of that movie is.
Warren Beatty movie.
I might be mixing it up, but
running for office. Running for office. Let me just see if anything pops up or if you're totally incoherent. Let me see.
I might be way off.
It co-stars Halle Berry, Oliver Platt, Don Cheadle, Paul Sorvino, Jack Warden.
What's the movie?
Bulworth. Good old Bulworth from 1998. Now, that's not possible, though. Bulworth is from 1998. This song came out in like 2007 or something like that.
Okay, so I'm thinking of a different song.
Yeah, you may be. But either way, long short, this is not a very old school cocktail. I've heard that it's been around since the 70s or something like that. Maybe it was rebranded and renamed in the early 2000s. But again, dude, this is one. And I would tell you this now that Aperol is a staple in the bar. This cocktail. And what did we have last week? The Archangel, right? Yes. The Archangel. Archangel and Paper Plane, both things I'm definitely busting out as a let's just face it. I'm going to be selfish here. I want to brag about my bartending skills and the depth chart that I have in the bartender book. You know what I mean? So this is what I'm busting out. And dude, just taking one more sip. That is fucking phenomenal. This is a good cocktail, bro. And again, it's not too sweet. It's not too fruity. It's not too sugary. It's not too tart. It's definitely boozy, right? You definitely would you say this meets your criteria for what is Stiff Truth approved? Just with
100%.
Just with dankness.
It's Ghetto Superstar that was in that movie.
Yeah. Totally
Sorry,
different song.
That was the version that I was looking at. My
Bob,
bad.
I'm just gonna say you swung and you missed, but that's okay.
Hey, my bad. My bad.
No, it's good. It's good. So, and again, kiddos, stiffies, our friends, our compadres, our love mates out there in the world. This is a pretty easy cocktail to make once you have all of the ingredients. Now, I will say this, unless you're kind of like a bar aficionado or something like that, you may not have all these ingredients, or maybe I'm just like making up for our lackluster.
Well, you're not going to have them, but at the same time, they're not outrageous. It's not like you're buying what's the rusty nail drink I'm thinking of?
Drambuie.
Yeah, it's not like Drambuie. It's like $45 a bottle. Like both of these are around 20 to 30 bucks. So it's nothing too crazy. I think I bought my Amaro for $21, my Aperol for 27. Yeah. And you can buy smaller bottles of each of them for even less. So you don't have to really break the budget too much to have a kind of unique cocktail here. But it is something that is nice to have at the bar, and I'm really glad that we have that, know what it is, and have added it to the so that we're less restricted when we go to make some of these drinks.
Damn, I just took another drink, and I kind of blacked out at the tail end of what you were saying. I was
it really does like hit the whole tongue with the taste and the flavors, because it's floral, it's tangy, it's sweet. It's you need.
It's everything you want. And for somebody like you and I, excuse me, that really appreciate a good bourbon, a good whiskey, like this is definitely a bourbon drink. You know what I mean? You can taste the whiskey in there, and it is not shy, but it's not overpowering. It's really good. So again, guys, if you want to know, it's 3/4 of an ounce of each of these ingredients. You got fresh lemon juice, and for Christ's sakes, please do not use the bottled bullshit. Get out there and squeeze your fresh citrus juices for your cocktails. I squeezed
my lemon today just for you.
It makes a world of difference, though. It really does. I can't stress it enough for everybody out there. That's my PSA over and over again. It's going to be a repetitive PSA for every single show where we have citrus in drinks. 3/4 an ounce of lemon juice, 1/4 of an ounce of Aperol. Amaro Nonino is the specific type of Amaro that the recipe called for that we saw. However, there's 20, 30 different types of Amaro out there. It's an Italian liqueur. Again, it ranges from about $22 to $50 a bottle, depending on how squirrely you want to get. And then 3/4 of an ounce of bourbon whiskey. Put that shit in a shaker. Give it some mad vigor for about 5 to 10 seconds.
Shake that shit like Bruce Willis and
oh Jesus Christ, that is definitely too soon. Please forgive my friend Bob over here, but as he's chuckling as he's going down deeper into the bowels of hell, yes, he's absolutely right though. And then put that thing in a nice. Me and Bob both use martini glass-esque, but I think it looks. Put that in a nice coupe glass or something like that, a little bit smaller, but still have that nice little handle so you give a nice little swirl. And boom, bam, right at the end there, you do want to express this thing with a lemon peel. Just kind of rub it around the top, get that little expression in there, just a little bit of that mister from doing such. And there you have it, folks. That is a paper plane. Now, the name has nothing to do with how the cocktail tastes or the ingredients within. But you know what? I like that, Bob. I like that. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? In fact, I think you can kind of make your own interpretation of what this drink means or its origins if you don't believe in it just being based off of a song or whatever you want to do. But
I would say this is like a great way for you to sneak in like a whiskey sour type drink if you're at a higher end bar without looking like trashy, you know what I mean? Because let's be honest, if you go to an expensive bar, or like say you have an open bar at a higher end wedding or something like that, and you go and you ask for a whiskey sour, it's pretty lowbrow, right? But if you still want that whiskey sour, but you want to like fit in or be kind of highbrow with it or fancy or show that you were kind of a connoisseur of sorts, you can ask for this paper plane. And if they don't know, just say it's equal parts this, and this. They'll hook you up real quick and good to go. And you still get that palette that you're looking for with a floral twist, right?
So what Bob's politely saying is that if you don't want to seem too NASCAR with it and you want to be a little bit more Formula One, then maybe ask for a paper plane versus a whiskey sour.
Oh, that's awesome.
Is that a good critique there?
Yes, yes, that's kind of it. Class up the joint, boys and girls. Class it up. And I want to point out too that a lot of drinks, when you put them in the shaker, they call for 20 to 30 seconds of shaking. That's kind of standard shaking bar time. Really get your drink really cold, mixes in, kind of waters it down, kind of how you need it to be watered down. That's part of the instructions. This one calls for 5 to 10 seconds, and it's very specific about that, as to not overwater it down. And I agree with that. You don't want this sucker to get watered down more than the 10-second rule. I think I went about 8 with mine. But yeah, so be mindful of that it is a pretty quick shake. Just get everything cold, but try not to dilute your ice too much and get it out of there.
Bob's not foreign to this either. It's just how he handles his masturbation and his fornication. So we're used to the quick shakes, in and out, on your way.
30 seconds. That's
30
max.
seconds or less. Hey. But you make a really fantastic point that I didn't even highlight, and I'm glad you brought that up, though. This is not a drink, bro. When you put, say, stuff in the mixer or the in the shaker for like a liquid marijuana or Tokyo tea or something like that, you kind of want a little of that dilution of water, right? You kind of want to just
it's part of the drink.
Take the edge off a little bit. So shake that bitch like ridiculous. Like combine late stage Muhammad Ali and Michael J. Fox and Bruce Willis. I mean, you really want to get in.
So it'll be all shaken, but you'll forget about it.
Forget about it, and then yell at the guy next to you for shitting in your pants. You know what I mean?
That's right. How could you do that?
How could you shit in my pants? Jesus Christ. But that's how you want to shake it, Bobby. But I'll tell you what, again, as we're talking about this drink, forgive me, Bob, I forgot when we started. When the fuck did we start? Did we start at 2? Did we start at like 145, 150?
We're going to be okay here, Scott. Just keep rolling, baby.
Oh, don't you worry. I'm staying the course here. But I was just going to say, as we're continuing to talk about this drink, this might be the first time that I'm literally almost finished with my drink before we finish, like, explaining what we're talking about here.
Well, and that's okay, because be honest, it's a quick drink. It's a small, quick hitter. It's strong and powerful. It tastes delicious. You're gonna slam this down. Similar to my thoughts in the martini is you want a couple of these to start your night, not to be your night. So
a small, quick hitter is exactly what Bob calls his penis. Well, hey, no.
It's not what I call it. It's what my wife calls it.
I call it Stanley. That's what I call it. But no, seriously, man, this is a dandy. I will tell you this, Bob. Today is a day where I know that your responsibilities are done. And post show, I think when we edit the show, I think we shake up another bad boy and just enjoy another paper plane, because these are quite fantastic. But
yeah, that's kind of a good point. I don't really have much to do today and beyond. So I got school done for the week yesterday. So golf clap for that.
Cheers to you. Cheers.
So I don't have any school to do. Work is we're not doing anything IT wise over the weekend. So I don't have any projects or any kind of weekend shit to worry about there. I've already knocked out most of my to-do list, like honeydew stuff for the house. So I only have another 30-minute little project left.
I've never, hold on a second. I've never heard that before. Honeydew, like, hey, honey, do this, honey, do that.
Yeah, exactly. Like honeydew melon, but also honey, take out the trash. Honey, do this. Honey, build me a fucking shed. Honey.
Yeah, because for a minute there, I got into that whole, which I always do when somebody brings up honeydew or cantaloupe, is like, which one's better? And for my buck, it's cantaloupe every day. I'm just going to go ahead and say
I'm going to say it depends. It depends on the ripeness of each. Like if you get a cantaloupe that's not quite there, right? But you get a honeydew that's perfectly ripe, that shit's money. But now, if you get a perfectly ripe, perfectly chilled cantaloupe, it's one of the best fruits in the world.
I agree, but you're right though. If you have a prematurely ripe cantaloupe going up against a ringer of a honeydew that's just oozing with juice, yeah, but again, for me, because you know what's funny is those are always given in a combination. You hardly ever get honeydew without cantaloupe, which I think is interesting. I wonder if that's something that
it's because of the season. They're in season together.
Well, I think it's beyond the rational kind of thought that you just put to it, Bob. I think it's age old. I think it's an age old
a timeless tale.
I think it's an age-old agreement from the ancient Egyptian, no Greek, no scratch that, Mesopotamian world.
Where the fuck does that melon come from?
I have no fucking clue where it actually comes from. And you know what? Don't even do that, Bob. If you dare, Bob, stay with me, Bob. Bob, cocks, balls, sweaty biceps, chesticles, six packs. Damn it, nothing is phasing him right now. Oh wait, now he's just looking up sweaty balls and six packs on his computer. Jesus Christ, Bob. But why Bob's looking that up? We're going to pivot here a little bit. We got some things we want to talk about today. I think we're going to start off here today, and I think it's just most important, the continuation a little bit of last week's conversation. If you guys remember, we're talking about TikTok and the ban on TikTok and just, how ridiculous we thought that was, how it's basically, it seems like it's definitely a way for the government to kind of snuff out Americans talking amongst themselves and having free speech and opinions about things. And we had some pretty interesting things transpire over the last week since Bob and I spoke about that. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this, Bob. We have the most unsuspecting dream team, a threesome, so to speak, of people that I don't know if we would necessarily associate ourselves with. But right now, I believe that both Bob and I are, hear me out, we are AOC, we are Rand Paul, and we are Tucker Carlson fans momentarily. Now, doesn't mean I subscribe to everything that each of those individuals does or believe in or that they say, but they all seem to have come together last week and recently on what was going on with the ridiculousness, not of the TikTok ban and nothing really of TikTok itself. So to separate what Bob and I spoke about yesterday was, quite frankly, just like, TikTok is awesome. Why are we beating on this? Theirs is more pointed towards the law that they were trying to pass that they were saying has to deal with TikTok. Bob, do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. So first off, this is the first time to this point that me, Scott, Tucker, Rand, and AOC have all been on the same page on something. That is a very rare topic to get us all to align, like the planets once a fucking century or whatever. So there's that. And the thing about the law that they were talking about, and specifically they were talking about the Restrict Act, the 686, the S.686 bill that's out there, which is co-sponsored and co-written with a Republican and a Democrat. So it's a bipartisan introduced bill. But what they're doing is like, let's ban TikTok. Other countries have banned it. China has banned it. India's government has banned it. And it's just like, well, government should ban social media from government devices. I mean, what the fuck are you on your government phone for? Your taxpayer-funded phone, like on Facebook and shit. Get to work, asshole. Use your personal phone for that. We all pay for that anyway. So be a good steward of the tax dollar and quit fucking around in your government-funded devices. So beyond all of that.
Hey, Bob, I don't want you looking anymore at half-naked dancing men, homosexuals, fluffers, and transvestites
on a taxpayer-funded phone.
No, sir. And that's where I draw the line. I draw the line there.
And awfully so, rightfully so. So interesting thing about this is they're talking about this bill, right? And this bill basically doesn't have anything to do with TikTok.
No,
there's not a single mention of banning TikTok in this bill. They're using TikTok and the argument that's been going around in the whole like congressional hearing, Dog and Pony show with Xiao Chu. I got that right? Shou Chu.
Hey,
it's close. Let's just stop while I'm ahead. So anyway,
you were doing great, Bob. You were doing great.
So they did all this congressional hearing, Dog and Pony show for this guy. Grilled him with like half retard fucking apes up there, asking him questions about Wi-Fi and bullshit that they don't even know, and it's clear that they don't understand the tech.
Bob, that's one retard.
Well, now it's two. So great.
Moving right along. Sorry.
So now they've moved on to introduce this bill, and it's almost like they specifically put this guy up there just so that they could like swirl the winds and fucking watch this hand while this one strokes off your husband. You know what I mean?
Wow.
and so
I really like that.
A little sleight of hand, right?
Tell me about it.
So while they're doing all this, now they're introducing this bill, which the bill is like been introduced officially. right? They haven't voted for it in the House, so obviously it hasn't gone to the Senate. But they did take it from the Senate, and Josh Hawley, our favorite Missouri senator.
Is he really though? Is he really?
He's just super
I'm
straight. So
well said. Well said.
Anyway, he went for a unanimous consent vote for this Restrict 666. And so for the layperson that may not be as nerdy into politics, a unanimous consent vote means that if we go ahead and push this through and we don't have a single dissenting vote, then this thing gets 100% unanimous consent, meaning we don't have to put it to the vote. We don't have to put it on the floor to vote. We'll get unanimous consent. This thing will get speed rushed through and we can forget it ever happened, right? And so he puts it out there expecting everyone to like jump on this because it is bipartisan, right? And we talked about all the reasons that those that are in power are for this bill last week, right? So
it's a bipartisan paid bill.
It is.
We'll go ahead and say that, yeah.
So he puts it out there for unanimous consent, thinking, oh, well, I for sure have all the Republicans. So let's see who will say no to this on the Democratic side. And no Democrats spoke up. But you know who spoke up? The boy behind your right shoulder right there, Mr. Rand Paul.
There he is.
Look at him. Look at sometimes I hate this guy and sometimes I love this guy, but that's why overall I love this guy.
Well, you know one thing that you can never do, you can never not appreciate the ramen noodles on the top of his head because he's got one of the nicest just hairstyles in the business. Very unique. But yes, absolutely right. Rand Paul is there to kind of be the spoke in the wheel for everybody's plan today. Now, this is not unusual of Rand, is it? This is par for the course for Rand. So when we started talking about this and you brought it up to me, there you go. Give it up. Oh, you son of a bitch. Okay, just so everybody out there in podcast land knows, Bob is now cracking my favorite beer in the world, Boddington's English Pub Ale, which is... It's an English bitter to be specific there, and he's enjoying it. It's nitro charged. It's delicious. If you guys haven't, please get out there and get it. But getting back to what I was saying, Rand Paul, this is he's a stud. I'm just going to go ahead and say this. And granted, he has done this before when I've been like, Rand, like just stop, just get out of the way for a minute, let something happen. But you know what? Big picture wise, he does this every single time for literally and genuinely what he believes is the greater good for the American people and looking forward for the future of the American experiment, for it to continue to be going on. And he red flags a lot more things than people do. He never follows anybody. And you got to respect that, dude. Am I right?
Well, 100%. Ideologically, he's different from John McCain. But fundamentally, he's not that much different than John McCain. And I think that's why I have a lot of respect for Rand Paul. Right. In that, much like John McCain is, he had his core values, and he would never go against those core values. And Rand Paul won't either. His life is driven by his core values and his core principles, and he won't dance outside of those to appease anyone for any reason. And man, that's... Again, I don't agree with a lot of the things that he does and says, but I love that. I 100% agree with living your life by those core values and principles, and he does. And this affected him deeply from his more libertarian kind of stance, constitutionalist stance. And he basically said, hey, you know who banned TikTok? China. So you know what we should do to protect our data from China? Act like China, and also ban TikTok and control free speech in America. And he's just like, no, we need free speech. We can't go acting like China. They're not setting the bar for how we behave as a democracy. And he just like lit it up on the floor. He gave all this reasons of like why this was tyrannical. This bill was nonsense. And this bill was leading us down a dark, dark path that we can't return from. And he said the same thing that I said. He's like, right now it's Joe Biden getting to decide.
Which is just as dangerous as anybody else, but a good way to spin it for some of the Dems listening to him was like, what happens when this is in place and then somebody's in power that you're not on board with, or it's the other side of the aisle? Then what? Because you can't do anything about it, and then they could deem you an enemy of the state. Then what do you do?
It's eerily, and he even like mentioned a nod of how good did that work out last time when we started aligning people with communist states, pointing to McCarthyism back in the 60s, right? and the same fucking environment, and that was so fucking toxic for the development of our country. And
everybody's a commie, right? We don't want to go back there.
We'll just get rid of you. We'll call you a commie. We'll blacklist you. We'll publicly announce it, and then everyone will be afraid to talk to you. We'll ruin your life. Like, that is not how we do business in America. At least that not in Rand Paul's mind. That's not how we need to move forward. And I couldn't disagree with a single fucking thing that he said, because everything that he said, it was from his conservative lens, but everything he said was my concerns from my less conservative lens about this bill. Was like, it's all good when you think about it until you lose control and somebody else has it, and then they don't care. And then they just start naming foreign countries of people hosting sites that they don't like, just to start throwing people in jail and putting them in court and all this other shit. And yes, man, that's a dangerous slope.
And I think the biggest thing about this bill, Bob, in my mind, is that there was just too much. There was too much ambiguity. There was too much that could not be determined by the body of Congress in this bill, and that was up to like a sole agency, or you know what I mean?
It was promoting tyrannical power.
Yes, yeah, it was like, okay, so why is this classification of who is deemed a threat to America, or just a political rival, or whatever it is? Why can this just be subjected by one person, by one group of people that aren't elected officials? I was like, nah, I don't like this. It smells funny, dude. It smells weird. It seems like a really hardcore power grab, and one that they wanted to keep a hold on for like the end of time kind of thing. Like, hey, but you know what? It's not unusual. If you think about it, I think he had mentioned something about this. If not, I know other people have, because, I don't recall 100% if he referenced this, but it's very similar to what they did after 9/11. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, no, except worse. It's much more invasive, and there's much less control over the authoritarian and the authority of it.
And let's face it, the catalyst is much less severe, or just not even there.
Right.
We're literally talking about people bombing American buildings in the biggest city in America and killing thousands of people, versus a lot of people dancing on a fucking cell phone social media application. Like those are supposed to be your fucking comparisons of why we are still, though, able to use the fear of the American people to seize tyrannical rule, or at least trying to get there, right? Which is just, again, it makes sense that they kind of swooped in and tried to do this at this time, because people are kind of freaked out. Everybody's like thinking, hey, when is the other shoe going to drop? When is World War III going to break out? Whether it's China, Russia, whether it's North Korea, or all three of them, right? Those all seem like not implausible things to happen, right? But again, this is just what they could grab right away and say, hey, let's take this and run with it. And I'm glad he pointed it out, because honestly, without him standing up, bro, who do you have? You have the other lady in my background there, which, again, I don't know how many people are going to take her super seriously, but when they both stand up, there you go. I think we joked about this on our last show, right? You're like, hey, AOC's got to be an advocate for TikTok. She's got a huge TikTok presence. She's got a huge social media presence. Okay, well, that makes sense. But she also jumped out there too. And like we also spoke about, even though Tucker Carlson thinks that, TikTok's is obviously, without a doubt, undisputedly making all of our kids transsexual, at least it's... At least he's still on board with this being an unjust thing to do, and it just doesn't make sense, right?
No, it's kind of strange. To me, it seems like such a blatant power grab and media manipulation, because what they've done is, you name me a person that, or a network that has 150 million viewers in a month.
Yeah.
Unique viewers in a month. It doesn't exist. That's bigger than Super Bowl numbers, and that's worldwide. This is just America. So we got 150 million users of TikTok that are consuming media on TikTok, and that what needs to be controlled. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a blatant power grab for this, and they're not even really trying to hide it. They're just kind of out there in the open. Some people are asking where their money is. I think it's really clear that they want to control the narrative, because they say that, we need to how do we moderate the content? And it's just like, well, that's the whole point of TikTok, is that there's very little content moderation outside of, hate, speech and all this other stuff. That's the point of it. It's kind of the ultimate free speech model for people to use and consume. And we always prided ourselves. We grew up in the 80s where it was all about that, right? Everyone fucking had their flags. It was Reagan. It was fucking Vietnam was over. There wasn't a war at the moment. The Cold War ended. Like, it was a great time to be American. It was all about the Bill of Rights and celebrating America. And we kind of, at least you and I, were indoctrinated into that belief. But that belief isn't exactly the way that it is these days.
Yeah,
but it should be. And it's not. I'm not saying that the 80s was the best time in America. Because there's plenty that are going wrong. There were still like women in the workplace that really were getting fucked over. There's still a bunch of racism and
racism and homophobia was probably at its worst at that point.
Right.
I mean, the AIDS epidemic, the crack epidemic.
So there's so much wrong.
There
was
a lot of bad things.
But as far as like where we were at politically, I think that might have been the greatest time in America.
Well, and I'll just say this, which will make sense, right? We've talked about the pendulum swinging. It also goes in like waves, right? And we got into a point during the 80s, definitely the late 80s, early 90s, where we are on that upper kind of crest of the wave, right? Everything was going right. The economy was booming. Like we were the champions. We helped destroy communism, right? And the red wave. We were going in the right direction. You were very proud to be a fucking American in the late 1980s. God damn it. It was definitely perceived by us Americans, kind of like one-sided, but perceived to be hands down, undisputed, best country in the world. We are here to do good. We are the good bringers of the world. And you know what? You go too far that way, you start getting into the late 90s and the early 2000s, and we start swinging the other way, and the wave breaks, right? But at the end of the day, absolutely, it was on one of our high points. If we were talking to a bipolar person, you know what I mean? Well, we were giggling and giddy in the late 80s, early 90s,
and politically, like, we were in a really good place, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of laws getting passed. Deregulation was a thing, which is still kind of up for debate about how that's long-term has like helped the country or not. But
right.
What I'm saying is, politically though, when you think about like how cooperative people were and how bipartisan the politics were, less shit got passed, but it was not near as drastic. Right. Yeah. There wouldn't be an all left when they had control and then nothing else on the right. Like, it would always be kind of a compromise. Like, well, we're going to pass this, but we're going to gut some things out of it and pass it. And we'll try to work on it later. When you have more of a majority, maybe you can amend it. And then they would work that way, which is how politics is supposed to work. Right. So politics was actually functioning fairly well in the 80s. But then, like, socially, the country was like down here still struggling on a lot of the things that we had mentioned earlier. But now socially, I think we're like way up here, but the politics and the tribalism and all the non-cooperation is down here. So now we still have like lost a lot. And I wouldn't say we're still like great at things, but like socially, as far as like acceptance, a little bit less hate out there.
Well, overall. I'd like to put a fine point on, though. I think perception-wise, mass perception-wise, socially, we were doing good in the 80s, early 90s, right? I think in the underbelly was still horribly socially, right? In the separation between rich and poor, just as bad or worse in some areas, right? But again, high level perception of how America was doing, we're doing great, right? We're like, on paper, we were doing fantastic. And
that's a good word, on paper.
Yes, we look great. If you added up the stats, right, you're like, oh, now you add up the stats. We got a mass shooting every week. We got this, that. We got George Floyd happening. We got this happening. We got this. I mean, we are a mess compared to what was going on back then in certain respects. Again, I don't want to go too down a rabbit hole on just the perception of our country by us and others. But yeah. It does make a big difference with how politicians act today, to kind of get back to what we were talking about, right? Because he's a dinosaur. Rand Paul's a dinosaur, bro. He's not liked by anybody in the sense of most of his party. Of course,
so was McCain.
Yeah, so was McCain. Yeah, mavericks, right, is what they call these kind of guys in the political world, right? Which is a great movie in the mid '90s with Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster. By the way, I just gotta bust that out there. I don't. Yeah. Have you seen that one? That old Western movie? That's a dandy, isn't it?
So,
you don't even answer. You're like, yes.
I shook my head. For a YouTuber's land. It does, like, I just, with these three, because of their position, and including Tucker because he's not pictured in your picture. But
I didn't have a picture. Hey, look, I looked on Google, but there's not a picture of all three of them together, which is just a sin, if you ask me.
I know we should have them on game shows, but but they're right, and they're coming from different places and how they view all of this, but their overall justification for why this is like terrible for the country is 100% right. And I sent you a TikTok earlier today, and I thought it was great because it was Matthew McConaughey was on Fox News. Right.
Well, I just wanted to let you know I deleted it because I didn't want China stealing my information. So
well, good for you. Good for you. now your kid might be trans, so watch out.
God damn it. It happened that quickly. I literally went to go get a pack of cigarettes and some milk.
So
now she's outside playing softball. What's going on?
Oh, geez. It's okay. It's okay. She's going to come in with like a bandana on playing Rambo. You're like, damn it. Fuck you, TikTok. So the place that they're all coming from, though, as far as not even the TikTok ban, the bill that was brought to the floor had, like I said, zero to do with the TikTok ban, but how they're coming in and where they're coming from. AOC is an old school. You know, she's new. I mean, she's been around for I think 6 years. I think this is her third go round in Congress.
Yeah.
Rand Paul has been around for fucking ever, and his dad was around forever. Establishment senators since the 50s, right? Mm-hmm. These guys, this family, this lineage, this heritage, and for them to all kind of see this, and so many people on both sides of the spectrum to not see it. I see plenty of people, and I hear plenty of people say, you know, TikTok's dangerous to China, like China's taking your data. And it's like, China can only have our data. Let me just fact check this. So you're okay with China having our data as long as it's Mark Zuckerberg that gets to sell it to them.
Yeah.
That's okay. But if they get it from TikTok, then that's where we're drawing the line here.
Or from Google or from Twitter. I would say Jack Dorsey, but he's not the owner anymore. It's Elon Musk. It's okay if Musk, which he's not really doing now. He kind of changed things over there a little bit. But still, that's what's interesting. It's almost like this, Bob. It's almost like when they introduced this bill to get people's attention. They're like, hey, fucking TikTok, right? Stealing all of our data and selling it to China. Horseshit, right? Let me tell you something else that's horseshit. And then they just bring in this bill and you're like, wait, hold on, wait. Do they have anything to do with each other? That's not important right now. Look, what's going to happen is there's going to be other foreign adversaries. Exactly. Slide. There's going to be other foreign adversaries that are going to do something like this. I'm just saying. Yeah, Facebook does it, but pay attention. They're not foreign though. TikTok is. Never mind. Anyways, back to what I'm saying. You know, but you brought up a good point though, Bum. For these three to come from three different lenses, from three different walks of life at the end of the day, right? You've got a hardcore, like, conservative pundit, right? That's really just out there to try to like get ratings at the end of the day. Call it what it is. Sorry, Tucker. I think you're a pretty smart guy, but at the end of the day, you're an entertainer, right? You've got Rand Paul, and then you've got AOC. For them to come together on this and nobody else be able to sniff it out really in the body of Congress, that scares me a little bit, right? Like, you don't have these three polarizing people in there pointing out the obvious nonsense of what's going on. This fucking bill passes. And then where are we? We are one step closer, like Rand Paul said, to being like China, to being controlled by our government. And that's not a good path to go down, because you know me, Bob, I'm definitely a libertarian with most things. And one thing I just, you know, it's kind of a staple of my beliefs is if anybody's going to do something right and high quality, it's hardly ever going to be the government. So there's that.
Well, and it makes you kind of draw focus. You know, Tucker aside, because these two behind you are in, you know, our legislative bodies, right? Mm-hmm. It definitely like says, you know, pay more attention to these two. Obviously, they're not in line with the party line, Right. And it tells me another thing. They're probably not collecting money from the lobbyist of Facebook.
You know what? That's probably a pretty smart thing to say. I will say this. They might be getting money from somebody, but it might not be where everybody else is getting their money from to kind of sway votes. Let's just
because I'm not because you can't pay Rand Paul because you never know if he's actually going to back you or not when push comes to shove. So why would you waste money on him if he's a wild card?
He's a maverick,
and he's been in there forever. So you already know going in. Well, that might be sunk cost if we lobby him. So we'll go ahead and lobby, other senators that are more in line, like his counterpart in Kentucky, Mitch McConnell.
Right. And you can't get rid of the guy either. They're not going to vote him out. That's obvious. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a moot point, right?
In fact, I don't even know if Democrats run against him anymore.
I don't know. We'd have to look that up. I'm not going to take the time to do it now, but it would seem kind of like if you're like looking where to put all your efforts and energy towards and resources money wise, like financially.
I wouldn't spend a lot of money running against Rand Paul. Now, Mitch McConnell, okay, that's probably worth it.
But I might just say, hey, you know what, bro? Maybe you go to, let's try Tennessee versus Kentucky. You know what I mean? Maybe you set up shop there,
right?
And you buy a nice little cottage there outside of Nashville, and let's just go there because I think Kentucky's kind of locked up. Yeah, no, that makes sense. But it is interesting, bro. It's a very unlikely threesome there, and I'm not gonna lie. I might take a peek at a video of this threesome, but just for a minute and probably just to see a little bit of AOC. You know what I'm saying? Huh?
Yeah, I'm probably with you on that.
It's kind of because most of it will be like a car wreck. I got to see the sweaty ramen noodle hair. You know what I mean?
If you wanted to see AOC, why do you keep pausing it on Tucker Carlson? This damn delay on this remote.
I'm like, no. Actually, Bob, it's the bow tie. Like, how is he actually wearing that with no shirt on? That's phenomenal. Did he use a pin? Like, is that stapled on? How did he get that on?
AOC's just down there with her legs up playing with ramen noodles. Anyway.
So,
moving on from all of this. You and I have been talking for the last week. I know we've sent some media and videos and articles and stuff back and forth about AI recently. AI is making a lot of advances, and I know that the recent Chat GPT has really been cruising along. I think it made Google release their AI a little bit early. And what's that called? I think it's called BART or something. BART?
I don't know, but I will say this. I heard that like what, over 100 million, 500 million, some ridiculous number of people have started using that. What is it again?
Chat GPT.
Chat GPT.
Yes.
And it took Gmail 5 years to get the same number of people using it that Chat GPT did in like 6 months or less or something like that. My point of bringing that up is AI is cruising right along, and you could almost say spreading like a ridiculous virus. But here's my whole point of like wanting to talk about this too. At the end of the day, it seems like, and people have been probably watching the news this week. You got Elon Musk, you got Wozniak, you got some big tech professionals that are huge proponents of what AI can do for mankind and their businesses, especially to their pocketbooks, saying, hey guys, I think we definitely need to put a big pause on what we're doing right now with AI development, because this could be detrimentally like explosive to mankind and humanity. Bob, that's a quote. Mankind and humanity, dude. So when you start like hearing that kind of raises a little bit of an alarm within me. And I start thinking about Terminator 2, Skynet. I start thinking about, shit like, dude, what if, and granted, and let's not just say like AI, like, okay, it becomes sentient and it like develops like a thought process and like autonomous brain, like, and like almost like, again, that's kind of like science fiction-esque, movies, horror movie science fiction-esque. But just when AI can already be deceptive to people and trick people and to do things that aren't necessarily programmed, whether or not it's a glitch or not, that kind of freaks me out, because when does it stop, and when do we start being like the Matrix, the power cells and the grunts of the world, and fucking machines take over. I know that's a lot of information at once, dude, but that's kind of where my head's going here. Is like, holy shit, bro, this does sound like a science fiction movie in the worst way. So that's kind of my thoughts initially.
So I have a bunch of thoughts on AI. First, I'll just kind of explain AI, what it is, what machine learning is, what the programming is kind of behind AI and all that.
I'll help you out. There was a man in the late 90s, early 2000s who played for the 76ers, Allen Iverson. Great player.
he is the one. He is the answer. So, my favorite AI. But yeah. So with AI, basically, you're just creating a program that once it receives information, it reacts to how it's programmed to react, right? And so normal AI is like you have a normal set of program and it reacts the way it reacts. And then you get like stuff it couldn't react to or stuff it reacted wrong to. And then you make an update to the software and you make an update to the software, right? And that's been going on for a long time now, a couple of decades. Right. But where we're at now, the program has gotten so refined with these places, especially with ChatGPT, that it's very nuanced and there's a lot of contingencies for the if-then program, right? And it's starting to get creative with kind of how it's answering questions, which still it's programmed, right?
But what you just said right there scares me all that much more, because when it gets creative means it's doing things that people didn't think it was going to do at the end of the day.
Well, right now it's not dangerous right now.
You're saying
so here's where we're at. First of all, Stephen Hawking, he was above average intelligence, a little bit smarter than most, right?
How's it going?
His number one fear was AI. It wasn't nuclear annihilation. It wasn't like crops or deforestation or any of that other stuff. It was AI. Right. And that he died saying and warning us about AI like the last couple of weeks he was alive. Right. So AI is dangerous according to the smartest minds in the world. You're hearing it from Silicon Valley coming up these days about the dangers of AI. So I want to kind of mix in some other like things into the dangers of AI. So I had mentioned to you off air earlier this week about just kind of the new quantum computing processors and all that, and they're making a version 2 already, and these quantum computer processors are so powerful. So everyone knows what binary is, right? It's a 1 or a 0. The answer no is like 11001 or whatever it is. The answer yes is like a different mixture of those numbers, and that's binary. It's always consistent, it's always the same. So the interesting thing is when you ask a computer like, hey, look at my picture, is my hair color brown? And it's going to be like 1100001 and whatever it is, it's like, yes, your hair is brown, right? Well, that's interesting. So that you always get those static answers. It lives in binary. It either is or it's
black
not.
or white, right? There's no nuance to it. There's no gray area. There's no elaboration on extenuating circumstances to kind of come up with something original. It's going to tell you things.
It is literally a light flashing or not flashing. It's a 1 or a 0 in computing and optical technology, right? So when you actually take that and you put it against AI with its logistical programming and everything, you have a binary system with logistical programming. It is or it isn't. We will program, it will make nuance, whatever. That is not dangerous. The part that freaks me out is with this quantum computer technology, it processes things so fast that it processes every single binary response as a 1, a 0, or a both answer, all simultaneously. So it gives you this like crazy choice of paths that you can answer with. And that's how quantum computing works. It applies all infinite possibilities to any sort of quantum computing that ever happens all at once, instantaneous, and it's very, very powerful, and it works at like negative 400 degrees Celsius. It's a crazy ass computer, right? And they've made a better, twice as strong version of it, right? So my problem is what happens when you get quantum computing and you start having AI come up with its own algorithms and enhancements for its debugging and its programming to solve the problems that it's trying to fix. I think once you start combining those two combinations of things over the next decade or so, you're going to get a sentient AI that now has programmed itself, that we no longer have the capacity to go to its programming in time to stop it because it's way stronger and faster than us. So
it's aware of itself.
It's aware of itself. It wants to preserve its life. That's the problem that I have, and that's the danger. Because at that point, it can respond so fast that even if you go to unplug it, it's probably already rerouted itself in a way that you go to unplug, and now it's getting alternate power from somewhere else, and it's probably smarter than you. It's 100 steps ahead. It's
probably got like multiple contingency plans for any kind of remedial deactivation ideas that I
would say, Scott, it's got all contingency plans infinitely at its disposal immediately.
Yeah, because that's how powerful and how fast it is. So, and that's the other thing. Again, I'm going to take this way back.
We're getting fucking a little off in here, but this is the reality and the potential. I don't think that far away.
No, and well, that was my point that I was going to speak to as well, Bob. Is like, at the end of the day, dude, if you remember, and again, I'm going to go back on memory lane here for a minute, but I remember just like looking in the ads in the newspaper with my dad in the early 90s at the computers, right? And you're like, oh, this is like this size processor, this and this and this and this. But like my point of bringing that up is like you just said, it's like they developed this new quantum computer that's twice as fast. Here's what's not going to happen. They're not going to go the other direction, right? So when people say, oh, this is so far off, oh, dude, this is not going to be a thing for like another 50 to 100 years. I beg to differ in a big way. And it's raising the alarm even more because if you just look at the progression of what we do, we're always trying to make this faster, better, more powerful, more intelligent, more flashy, more shiny thing, right? That's the weird human nature. It's almost like we're developing ourselves out of existence, if that makes sense. It's like, hey, let's see how far we can push this technology until we're not necessary anymore, right? Like, and that's, if you think about it, even though that's a really like kind of very doled down way of speaking about it, that's kind of what we do with technology. It's like, let's see how convenient we can get things. Let's see how fast we can get things. Let's see how quick we can get, like whatever it is, right? It's always about like those elements of like, hey, you know why this is cool? Because it's technology and I don't have to do a fucking thing and I can just sit here. You know what I mean? Like it's doing everything for me. So I would imagine that this is going to keep exponentially getting faster, better, smarter, at a pace that we won't be able to catch up with. And I think that's one of the reasons why Elon, Wozniak, and others was like, whoa. I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit, and we need to come up with a lot of contingency plans and a lot of ways of controlling this before, again, it's like a wildfire. Because I think that's kind of how they're looking at it.
Because, especially in a market economy, everything moves at the speed of business, right? We want to utilize technology to profit. Mm-hmm. Right. So the push to AI is about profitability. Right. And I think the danger happens is that when this happens, it's going to happen fast. Like it'll go up and then it'll just drop off the ledge. And then all of a sudden it's potentially that an AI could then have control of pretty much anything. But another thing is, I don't think that it's going to come from the private sector. Well, I don't think it's going to come. I think a government is going to be pushing boundaries and limits in a lab somewhere, and kind of like Wuhan shit. I think it's going to get out of control that way because they have much more resources, much less governance,
right?
And so they can actually push these resources in these black ops operations and doing what they do. I think that's more likely, in my opinion, of how it would get out. And not to say the U.S. government, it could be China, it could be it could be whoever, right? But I think that it's more likely that a government would create this monster that we can't put the cat back on the genie bottle there than it is the private sector, who is kind of out in the open and beholden to stockholders and shit.
Well, and you make a great point, and Bob, and to put on my libertarian hat again, the private sector is more holistic, right? In the sense, it's more genuine in what they're trying to do. They're trying to make money. They're trying to develop, AI tutors and teachers and surgeons and stuff like that. Yes, it's going to make a lot of money, but they can do a lot of good for the world. Whereas, what if there's an AI entity controlling the fucking nuke buttons for China or Russia or everybody, right? Because they just broke into
there could be other directions, Scott. What if an AI entity grew like sentient and shut down all the nukes?
No. Well,
and just like, no, I'm not killing myself with this. Y'all need to get this dangerous shit out of here. This ain't going to work for me. Right. And just gets rid of all the nukes himself and just starts shutting things down.
Except for a direct impact, though. I know this is a tangent. I would say that the nukes are more more dangerous to organic elements like us versus machines. So like
I wouldn't say, I'd say no, because of the EMP. EMP knocks out all electrical from the nukes. But I would also say that we need a AI. Still, we can't just like have a hard stop, because AI is going to solve some of the problems that we're struggling with. Right. Cancer, food, water.
But again, though, guess what? And here's the opposite of that. They don't need any of those things that are elemental to our existence.
But right now, we're still controlling them.
Right.
And with our programming, before we hook them up to more dangerous situations, I think we still need them for space travel, for some of our earthly problems that we have, like fucking, our food and water and climate control. And how do we terraform our own planet? Can AI help us with some of these problems? Perhaps.
No, but you know who can? Your mom. I'm sorry. It just had to happen. But here's the thing. I really think this is a conversation, and I'm glad we've seen a lot more. Where, Bob? On TikTok.
Of course.
I've seen a lot of things speaking about just the potential dangers of AI going too fast without any kind of control or oversight or governance about its path. Because that's where we're at right now. And I was watching something earlier, Bob, that a guy brought up a great point. He's like, you would think that this is just, you would think it's just a handful of companies that are doing this. No, that's not the thing. If you want to shut the brakes down and be like, hey, no, wait, guys, there's millions, I'll just say millions of minds right now working on AI for hundreds of different companies and for different kind of applications. And there's absolutely zero way to shut it all down right now. But I think that a big push for most of the big players to do so is a smart move to say, hey, if we haven't learned anything at all else from cinema and from entertainment in the 20th century, especially the 20th century, let's maybe take a little bit of pause here and say, you know what? Like, let's maybe think about what we're doing right now and how quick it's going and how quick it could get out of control, and try to babysit this all the way to the finish.
Well, and I would like to point out that there are different types and different levels of AI, right? AI is used all the time. I'm looking at it right now for different big data analytics and different machine learning things, just kind of with my work. And so I know that other companies all look at these like data lakes, and they try to pull all this data and try to make meaningful things out of it, but it's too complex. And so they use AI to help sort it out and come up with like categorical, things they'll help them kind of drive their business decisions. Yeah. And so there's that type of AI, and that's really not what we're talking about here. No. What we're talking about, even ChatGPT, let's be honest, it's a smart browser. It's a better browser that has better answers, and ChatGPT isn't the enemy. And Elon is one of the main owners of ChatGPT, by the way.
Again, there's people and that's what I think, again, just like our conversation earlier with Rand Paul, AOC, and Tucker Carlson, right? Like, it's interesting that the people sounding the alarm, you would think maybe wouldn't even give a shit, right? Or this
would have the most interest in not sounding the alarm.
Right, yeah. Or they would be doing exactly the opposite. Like, they would be the main people out there saying, "Hey, everybody, calm down. It's cool. It's cool," as the world's crumbling. But that's not the case. I think that's why it definitely sparks the need for more conversation from a lot more parties.
Yeah, and I'm not going to disagree with the people that I've been hearing about AI. And I think a lot of the AI is fine. And I don't think that's what they're talking about. I think they're talking about the more experimental AI. Yes, the more trying to make a sentient AI, right? That hooking AI up to these crazy quantum computing technologies. Let's pump the brakes on that, because we can barely control the normal production AI that's out there in like the business world. Let's get a handle on that and make sure we're good there before we're in the back underbellies of everything, just like throwing as much power and resources at AI and letting them decide what's best. And because it'll happen fast and we'd lose control, and they're way smarter than us.
That's a great point. In fact, I'll end it with this from my perspective here. I even get frustrated and a little bit scared about how AI can beat a chess player. Okay. And that's remedial. That's very basic. But at the same time, I'm like, whoa, the human mind is very powerful. And you just dwarfed it with your computing skills. And I don't like that. I would send them to their own fucking water fountain.
And that happened like a decade ago or so.
I know.
That was the IBM Watson's the first one to beat a chess master.
Right. So, but again, though, that's the tip. That's barely the tip of the iceberg, right? But and that's what's scary, Bob, again, with the compounding, like, acceleration and advancement of what can happen left unchecked. I think that's a good way to kind of just marinate on that, guys. It's like, look, we literally over a decade ago have machines that can beat our most skilled world champion chess players at our fucking game, mind you. So what happens next?
There'll be more about AI in the coming weeks and months, I'm sure.
100%.
I mean, ChatGPT is crushing it. It's good. Yeah. I use it a lot, honestly, in my Bing browser, so it's very helpful.
I've never used it.
I know that my son has used it to help him write a paper. Like, it's very helpful for stuff. I've seen videos about people using it to help ask for a raise at their job, and they got the raise from it. Like, like it wrote like a very eloquent email, like stating their like points of like giving them a raise or whatever. It's very helpful. But again, not the AI that we should fear. The ChatGPT, I don't think is that type of AI.
Right. Well, to toot my old man horn for a minute there, do you remember when, as I just mentioned this, we're like, yeah, my kid uses it so we can, help him write a paper. Do you remember going to the library and like looking things up?
The Dewey Decimal System, bro.
That and an old school microfiche, you know what I mean? Fucking scrolling through shit, dude. Like back in the day, doing like a basic research paper was a fucking pain in the ass. You had to earn that shit. You had to like literally put in the blood, sweat, and tears. And now it's as simple as opening up your browser, typing like a couple things in the browser, like search bar, and boom. You've got everything and probably like millions of more resources that you don't even need. And
all that microfiche stuff is now online.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
I know. We had to work way harder. I do think we're about out of time for today. I do want to mention Trump got indicted. And there's like 30 counts. I don't have a lot to say about that. More to come as things come out. I don't want to jump the gun.
Well, and I'll just say this too. Are we all just tired of speaking about Trump and letting him consume the news cycle and more screen time? I think I am personally. That was a rhetorical question, but I actually wanted you to answer, Bob. Are you sick of hearing about Trump? Like, just like, let's move on already.
So I'm totally sick about hearing about Trump, but just like any billionaire, most of them have skeletons in their closet and can probably be arrested for something. I don't think he's any different. And this case is, I think, probably the least important as far as like the potential cases that he could be seeing in the investigation that's going on. All right, I'll say this. The dude that actually paid Stormy Daniels has already gone to prison and gotten out. So if he's involved in that, there's a likelihood that he'd be found guilty. But can you find half of the jury that's going to actually convict him? I doubt it.
Well, I'll say this, and to do everybody here at the Stiff Truth and all of our stiffies a favor, we're not going to give Trump any more screen time here. We're not going to give him any more of our time here. In fact, I'd like to see Stormy Daniels get a little bit more. You know what I mean? Huh?
We all want to see Stormy Daniels get a little more screen time. So we'll circle back, I guess, if there's a conviction or something. But other than that, I agree. I'm kind of trumped out. It's been kind of like consuming the show for years, and I'm just tired of. I just want to move on. There's so much like cooler shit that we could talk about than Donald Trump.
And we've just done that. Moving on. So, guys, we are done for today. But Bob, great conversation, man. Thanks for joining us, guys. We're going to be back at it again. If nothing else, if you remember nothing else from this show, because I know we say a lot of nonsensical stuff that you may or may not care about, get out there and fucking mix up a nice fucking paper plane. This is probably one of the top cocktails for a bourbon or whiskey drinker that I can think of here. And I'll tell you what, other than that, Bob, I'm done. So enjoy, guys. We'll see you later.
See ya.
Oh, I just had a little just a little bit left in that one, and it was so good, Bob.
Cheers, Scotty.
Oh, cheers all the way. Cheers to your tits.
Cheers for fears.
Oh, it's a great band.
Cheers for beers.
Cheers. Recline that thing all the way back.